everybody, so I hope you're well and having the most incredible day as always. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Honestly, I have just sat down and filmed this video for 40 minutes and I put it in my computer. The volume wasn't quite right, so the audio's messed up somewhere. I also absolutely despised the lipstick I was wearing and I just couldn't look past it. So we are going to be filming it again. I'm not going to lie, I've also got my dinner in the oven, so I'm on a bit of a time crunch, but we are going to be going into the books I read in February. Hopefully this whole video isn't an absolute mess, but I hope you're here for it. I hope you enjoy. I read 11 books throughout February, and considering I went to Disney for 5 days, I feel like that's actually pretty decent. I'm quite impressed. I have a bunch of great books, I have some not so great books, so I'm really excited to share them with you. So without further ado, we are going to dive right in. I hope you guys enjoy and carry on watching. So if you guys didn't know, me and my friend Kelsey, we have our own book club and it's called the Across the Pond Book Club. You guys can find us on Instagram. We also have a massive group chat where you can be added and we talk about books and all that kind of stuff. But our February book was actually Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and as I'm filming this, I actually finished this yesterday and I ate this up. I absolutely loved it. So this is basically a werewolf vampire romance. I'm currently rewatching The Vampire Diaries as well, so I think it's kind of just really giving to that kind of vibe and I'm absolutely here for it. I gave this one a 4-star. It's basically like a enemies to lovers, forced proximity, basically a romance between a vampire and a werewolf, and I absolutely loved it. The only reason it didn't get a 5 stars, honestly, was there was a lot of politics in this, because there are a lot of politics in terms of the vampires sort of way of life, the werewolf's way of life, the human's way of life, and it kind of made it hard to understand it. But also at the end, it kind of ended really abruptly for me, because just before the epilogue there was just this really bizarre, like, spicy scene, and then it just kind of finished and it was a bit strange. But I did really enjoy this book. There was also a big mystery within this book and I really loved that aspect. And basically, without giving too much away, you've got Misery, you've got Lo. He is the alpha werewolf and she is a vampire, and essentially her dad forces her to marry into the werewolf community, go and live with them, to almost basically to show that they're not enemies, to kind of have that kind of bond, I suppose. But it's just such a good book. I highly recommend, and if you are into like a vampire werewolf style romance, you will love this. So yeah, 4-star. Delightful, loved it. Then we have Love Me Do by Lindsay Kelk. Now I actually listened to this one on audiobook and I would have to say I think this is my favourite book that I've listened to via audio. I gave this one again a 4-star. I absolutely loved it, and sometimes I find that when I listen to an audiobook I don't really connect with the story as much as if I was reading it like in a paperback or on my Kindle or something. I don't know, I think it might just be maybe sometimes I phase out when I'm listening to it, I'm not sure, but I absolutely loved this. This book had me giggling, I was gasping, I was just really enjoying it. Essentially, you've got Phoebe who goes to LA to go and visit her sister, and she meets the neighbour Ren and basically then helps set him up with her friend Beth. Like, her friend Beth is like in love with Ren, so she sets them up, but then obviously feelings are kind of mixed and it's all a bit of a mismatched situation. You can kind of predict the ending, I'm not gonna lie, it's a very obvious outcome, but I did really enjoy it, and there were some parts of this that I just couldn't quite get over. I just thought I was shocked when I was reading it, and I absolutely loved this book. I would say it is definitely more of a summer vibe. Like, if you want a nice beach read or something going into the sort of spring summer time, this would be perfect. But I did honestly mainly pick this one up for the cover. It's just such a beautiful design and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, another 4-star. It was just incredible. We then have The Dead Romantics. Now this book I mainly picked up this month because I know that the 7-Year Slip by the same author has become very popular on TikTok, on YouTube at the moment, and I do really want to read it, but I wanted to read this one first. I really liked this one. I listened to it on audiobook and I gave it a 3-star. It's definitely not a book that I would find myself reaching for again or really recommending to people, but I did enjoy it. I had a fun time reading it. Essentially with this one, you've got Florence and you've got Ben, and Florence's family is in the kind of funeral home industry. They have a funeral home. They basically are a very famous funeral home in where they live, and Florence can also see ghosts, which is where she meets Ben. And Ben, she actually met the day before or a couple days before his accident, and it was kind of a work-related meet situation. I won't give too much away. And then she figures out that he's died and she sees his ghost, basically. Feelings are kind of made and it's all a bit confusing because obviously he's dead, she's not. I'm not going to give too much away. I did predict the ending, which is kind of obvious when you read it, but I actually really enjoyed it. I loved the like found family family aspect. I loved every character and I thought it was just a really lovely read. So yeah, I would highly recommend this one, and let me know if you've read The 7-Year Slip. Do I need to read it? I'd love to know down below. We then have You With a View by Jessica Joyce. Now, if you guys didn't know, I do have a book club with my friend Becky and Becky, and it's confusing. They both have the same name, but we basically have a book club just for ourselves. We all read the same book every single month, and February was my choice, and I decided to go with You With a View mainly because of how beautiful the cover is. It was just screaming like love month, Valentine's Day, and I absolutely loved this book. I gave this one a 4-star. It was just such a beautiful read. So this one is about Noelle, and you have Theo and you have Paul. They're kind of the main 3 characters. So Noelle basically, her nan passes away, and within her things she finds a letter and a photo, and it's relating to this guy called Paul. She has no idea who he is, so she decides to make a TikTok saying like, can we have like find this guy Paul, and Theo comments saying that's my granddad. So they all meet. Turns out that Theo and Noelle actually know each other, and after speaking with Paul, Noelle, Paul and Theo basically decide to go on this massive road trip where Noelle's nan was going to go with Paul on their honeymoon, but they obviously didn't end up getting married. And it's just such a wonderful story. Obviously feelings do come around between Theo and Noelle. It's kind of like it's not an enemies to lovers because they're not enemies, but at school they're definitely more like rivals, like they are competitive with each other, and I really, really liked that. I just thought it was such a beautiful story. I loved every character, and I had to give it a 4-star. So yeah, such a beautiful read. If you guys haven't read this, I highly recommend it, and obviously the cover is just stunning, so it will look great on your bookshelves as well. So loved that one. A book which I didn't love as much is Dating You, Hating You by Christina Lauren. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I really loved The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I thought it was such a wonderful book. This one, it was kind of giving me the Hating Game vibe, and I did not like that book at all. I gave this one a 2-star, and it's just like a workplace enemies to lovers, but reading the enemies to lovers, like I love a proper enemies to lovers, like a we nearly killed each other kind of vibe. This is more like stop flirting with me in public, like a really embarrassing kind of vibe, and I just didn't really like it. It was basically the same sort of gist as the Hating Game. They're both kind of fighting for the same position, and they end up falling for each other, but they so-called hated each other. I just didn't really like it. I honestly couldn't even tell you what the characters are called because I really cannot remember that much of this book, but I just didn't love it. I will keep it because I love the cover and it matches my other Christina Lauren books, but it's definitely not one that I can see myself picking up ever again, which is a shame. But yeah, that is my first 2-star of the month. Didn't particularly like that one. Next, we have The Kiss Thief by LJ Shen. Now, I read My Dark Romeo by LJ Shen a few months ago, and I really, really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed this one as well. I gave it a 4-star, and if I'm being completely honest with you, this is basically another version of My Dark Romeo. It's a very similar concept. Essentially, it's like a forced marriage, enemies to lovers story, which is basically what My Dark Romeo is. It is very, very similar. You've got Wolf and you've got Francesca. Francesca basically kisses Wolf thinking he's someone else, and in this society, essentially, if you kiss somebody, nobody is going to want to be with you, and you're kind of then forced to marry into that family whether you like it or not. And so she's basically forced to marry Wolf, who is this like big bad guy, very, very rich, and just is very intelligent, let's just say that. And it's just a really good story. I really enjoyed it. It's very spicy, it's very quick to read. The only thing I didn't like was that there was something that Francesca did within this book that I didn't really agree with, but if you've read it, you'll know what I mean. I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, essentially this is a forced marriage mafia romance, and it was a nice sort of cleanse. I'm not gonna lie, I do love a dark romance, and this kind of ticked the box. So yeah, a 4-star read. I really enjoyed it. I actually managed to read a 3-part series this month, and that is the Maybe series by Colleen Hoover. I don't have the books to hand, but I essentially read them this month because I just wanted to get them off my TBR. I bought these books ages ago, like well over a year and a half, maybe nearly 2 years ago, and I just wanted to get them off my shelves, get them read, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't particularly like these. I gave them all a 2-star. To be honest, if I didn't own the physical copies, I definitely would have DNF'd, but I was listening to them on audiobook, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to get them done, and I absolutely did not like these at all, to be honest. I like the writing style. Like, Colleen Hoover writes books that are very easy to read, very kind of just very understandable, like they just make sense, but the storyline in this one was just so blah to me. Like, it was the cheating trope, it was all a bit strange. Essentially, you've got a girl, cannot remember her name. What is her name? Did I even write it down? Probably not. I feel like it was like Ellie or something, or Emma, maybe not. Anyway, there's this girl main character who sees this guy across the way, who plays music, and she's sort of like falling in love with him but not. She has a boyfriend, but it turns out that her roommate and best friend is sleeping with him, so she moves out, moves in with this other guy that she's literally never met in her life apart from across the way. They start talking, and it turns out that he is deaf but he writes music. She starts helping him write lyrics, and it turns out that he does have a girlfriend and that they're basically like flirting, but he has a girlfriend. It's all a bit of a weird mix. And then in the last book, spoiler alert, 3 couples all get engaged within 30 seconds in a bar, and they've literally all been together for like 2 weeks. It's just not a bit of me. I really didn't enjoy that series. I do love some of Colleen Hoover books, I'm not gonna lie. Like, some of them that I've read I thoroughly enjoyed. Like Verity I absolutely loved, but this series just didn't tick any boxes for me. Again, I give it a 2-star, like I finished it. I would never read it again, I wouldn't recommend it, and I just didn't particularly enjoy it. So yeah, I'm sorry, that was a very vague like description of the books, but I don't have them here and I really cannot remember what they were even about. Next book I read in February was actually a novella, and this is Scream for Us by Molly Doyle. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, if you don't like spice, you will absolutely hate this, because this is basically 77 pages of pure spice, but I absolutely loved it. I will say that I definitely want to continue the series, and I hope that this kind of series, there's bigger books, if that makes sense. I hope that they're not all novellas, because as much as I enjoyed it, I did really want more. I gave this one a 3-star. Again, as I said, I would have loved this as a book with more detail, more world building, a lot more character building, because it was very quick into the story, which obviously for a novella is perfect, but I just really want to read the first actual book in this series to kind of see if it's a bit of me and if I enjoy it. But essentially this one is about a girl called Quinn, who is your typical like good girl kind of character, and she goes to a Halloween party and she bumps into Ghostface, Jason and Michael Myers, who are obviously people dressed as them for Halloween, and essentially it's like I don't know how to describe this and make it PG. She basically sleeps with them all together, apart. She kind of does what she wants to do. And they're kind of like in a 4-way relationship, but not in a 4-way relationship. Like the boys are all separate, but she's kind of chip-chopping and changing, if that makes sense. But yeah, I will definitely carry on with the series. I really liked it. It was quite a dark kind of style book, if I'm not gonna lie. Like, there was definitely things of violence in this book, but I did enjoy it, and I will continue it. But I definitely think it's more of a Halloween style book, if I'm being honest. I don't really know why I read it in February, but I did enjoy it, and I will carry on with the series. As I said, it's a 3-star read. I am excited to read the rest though, so I will have to purchase those soon. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It wasn't my fave, but I did enjoy it. And last but definitely not least is actually the first book I finished in February, so I'm kind of doing this backwards, but this was actually mine and Becky's book club pick for January, but I actually finished it in February, so I'm mentioning it now. This is The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. Now, I have not read Fourth Wing. Do not come for me. I am going to read Fourth Wing, don't you guys worry, but I'm kind of contemplating filming like a reading vlog. I haven't quite decided, so let me know if you'd like to see that. But Becky basically picked this one, and I was kind of, I'm not going to lie, not excited about it. I was a bit like, ugh, like it's not been on my radar, like I haven't really heard of it, and it's not on my physical TBR, so like I'm just like not excited, but I'm gonna read it because that's the whole point. Like, we each take it in turns to pick a book, you know? And this book tore my heart out, put it in a blender, made me sob. Literally, my whole face hurt. My eyes were puffy. I have never cried reading a book as much as I have reading this book. The last like 100 pages destroyed me inside and out. I still think about it now. I'm giving it a 4-star because, I mean, I probably could give it a 5-star if I'm honest, but I am going to stick with 4 because that is what my initial thought was. But this literally broke my heart into a million pieces, and it is yet to be put back together because I just cannot even describe to you how emotional this book made me. Like, I have never sobbed so much reading a book in my entire life. But basically, you've got Ella and you've got Beckett, and you've also got Colt and you've got Maisie. So Colt and Maisie are Ella's children. Beckett is Ella's brother's friend from the army, and Ella and Beckett are introduced. I'm not going to ruin it too much, but they're basically like pen pals almost. Basically, then Beckett comes into Ella's life physically, but she doesn't realise that Beckett and the person that she was writing letters to is the same person. So it's such a like, that's kind of going on in the background. There is so much heartache, so many things going on with this book. Like, Ella cannot catch a break, and I have never cried, as I said, so much thinking about this book makes my eyes water. Like, I have never cried so much. I am going to be buying the new cover of this book so it matches my other Rebecca Yarros book, but honestly, it says heartwarming, more like heartbreaking. Like, I have never read a book that broke my heart so much. It also says this book will leave you breathless, which it did, because I was literally hyperventilating when I was crying. Like, I have never cried so much reading a book. There's probably actual tears in this book. Like, I just cannot even tell you what this book is about because I don't want to ruin it. But if you love a good, heart-wrenching, emotional read, please, if any of these books, like, just read this book. It was so good. And as I said, I am definitely going to be buying the new cover because it was just fantastic. Like, it was so good. I feel like I should give it a 5-star. I'm giving it a 5-star, but I am going to stick with 4 because that is what my initial thought was. I'm doing it. I can't stop thinking about it. It's a 5-star. I've changed my mind. Please read this. It's just incredible. So those are all of the books I read throughout February. I would love to know down below, what books did you read? Did you like them? Did you hate them? Let me know down below. I would love to know. And if you guys are watching this video and you haven't yet subscribed, please do. I upload videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and it's usually book related, Lush related, or a vlog or something like that. So I really hope you guys stick around, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.